Hello everyone, Richard here, and welcome to episode 6 in my Killing Floor 2 perk guide. Today we're going to be looking at one of, if not the most powerful perk, the Gunslinger. To preface this guide, most of the tips, strategies, and stats will be from a high skill level perspective, playing on a 6-player Hell on Earth game where aggression, damage, and Big Z health are all much higher. These tips can be applied at any level of gameplay and will hopefully improve your overall skill level with a bit of practice. Gunslingers are fast, agile, and incredibly powerful, capable of delivering knockout blows to Big Zeds with modest trash killing capabilities. They utilize handguns, especially dual-wielded, and lever-action rifles, and rely on headshots and their ability to kite to remain effective. The principal strengths of the Gunslinger are its extremely high damage per second, boosted even further in Z time, its lightning fast Big Z takedowns, very high movement speed, and overall flexibility, especially when compared to more myopic perks like the Firebug and SWAT. Its major weaknesses are few but worth noting and mostly revolve around the technological limitations of handguns, namely their frequent and slow reloads and high emphasis on accuracy. Furthermore, other than the faster movement speed, the Gunslinger has no additional assets to help keep him alive other than bullet resistance, which is rather moot unless facing the Patriarch or Hans. The passive skills for the Gunslinger at level 25 include 25% increased perk weapon damage, 30% bullet resistance, 20% increased movement speed, 25% recoil reduction, and 75% increased reload speed in Z time. The main bonuses you'll want to focus on are the increased movement speed, which can be further increased with a level 5 skill, giving you the ability to safely kite large Zeds and bosses, and the increased reload time during Z time, which can help remedy your longer reloads if no targets present themselves. The Gunslinger's grenade or nail bomb is a very unique throwable, not only dealing a fair amount of explosive damage, but also capable of stunning Zeds, especially trash, within a fair radius. Whatever survives the explosion will also take shrapnel damage that, in addition to causing extra wounds, will also cause gun hit and melee hit effects, sending most Zeds reeling. Against crawlers and stalkers, the nail bomb is a quick way to clear a path, or at the very least, leave them stunned and vulnerable to your handguns. Both Skrakes and Fleshbounds can be stunned with a nail bomb and a quick follow-up shot from the SPX, again leaving them vulnerable. In dire situations, a pair of nail bombs can be used to quickly stun a Fleshpound, leaving him completely at your mercy and ripe for a quick takedown. A critical component of the Gunslinger is weapon penetration, and while present on the support as well, penetration plays a bigger role in weapon selection on this perk. There exist 5 levels of penetration relevant to the Gunslinger, each of which will allow you to go through different Zeds and potentially improve ammo economy in certain situations. The first is no penetration. This includes the 9mm and the 1858, and this means rounds will not go through any Zeds and stop in their target. A penetration value of 1 applies to the 1911 and can penetrate crawlers and stalkers. A penetration value of 1.5 can go through Clot variants, Sirens, Edars, and lesser Zeds and applies to both the lever action and the AF 2011. Penetration value 2 applies to the Desert Eagle and can pierce Gorefast, and finally, penetration 3, found on the 500 Magnum, can allow you to penetrate husks. This number, in comparison to a Zed's penetration resistance, will determine how many Zeds a round can pass through. However, that is a topic for another video. Your starting weapons as a Gunslinger will be the 1858s, a pair of revolvers that are quite accurate despite being predated before cased ammunition. While they may look flimsy in appearance, they are very useful pistols capable of killing crawlers with a single body shot and dispatching most weaker enemies with a single headshot. The biggest weaknesses will be their rather long reload time and the limited magazine size of just 6 rounds per pistol. While adequate for most engagements, large groups of enemies will have you kiting to avoid damage. Stalkers, in particular, will be a nuisance due to their elusive heads and ability to eat multiple rounds before being neutralized. Next up is another American classic. The legendary M1911 is the first magazine-fed option available to the Gunslinger. And while it gains no additional damage over the 1858, it makes up for this with a larger magazine and quicker reload. These traits make it a popular choice later in the game as a dedicated trash-killing pistol, perhaps only bested by the upgraded medic pistol. However, the 1911 comes in at a fraction of the cost. It also offers additional penetration over the 58s and allows you to handle crawlers that may be closely packed. Despite this weapon's age, it still has a home as a reliable and cost-effective sidearm, even in the 21st century. The next handgun available to the Gunslinger is the Desert Eagle, chambered in the 50 Action Express, a powerful half-inch round capable of blowing a hole in a man's chest or a Zed's face. Compared to the 1911, you will see a dramatic increase in damage and penetration capabilities at the small cost of one less round in the magazine and understandably increased recoil. A pair of Desert Eagles, especially fully upgraded, are a force to be reckoned with, being able to bring down flesh pounds and scrakes in under a second, assuming you can temper the recoil. At tier 5, the Deagles are the highest DPS weapon available to the Gunslinger, so high in fact that some servers prohibit their use. The first tier 4 weapon available to the Gunslinger is the 500 Magnums. While it does fire half-inch rounds like the Desert Eagle, it features a much larger Magnum powder load, meaning higher muzzle velocity and thus more kinetic energy. While they don't have the same tier 5 killing power that the Deagles have, their increased penetration and higher per shot damage make them pretty effective at killing several Zeds lined up in a row. Despite them not holding up as well as the Deagles, they are far from useless weapons and offer a more tempered and refined pace due to their lower rate of fire. The final dedicated Gunslinger weapon is the AF 2011, essentially two 1911s mounted side by side. Despite chambering the same round, the 45 ACP, the AF 2011s will deal slightly more damage per bullet and have increased penetration. The AFs do fire two separate projectiles, meaning that each trigger pull is capable of hitting two separate targets without factoring in penetration, and can potentially score 2 points towards rack 'em up. These fall somewhere between the Desert Eagles and 500 Magnums as far as endgame power, and are often considered as a good secondary to the Deagles if the 500s are not to your liking. While the 2011s do offer more total ammo and higher damage per second, their recoil is much higher, which can potentially cause a miss during a takedown. The 500s offer less DPS but increased penetration and increased effectiveness against rioters who can be decapped by a single 500 shot. Moving on to the cross-perk weapons, the first and one of the most underrated is the medic pistol. While by itself it is a decent way to decap trash and provide some additional healing to other players, it becomes incredibly effective with just a single upgrade. Not only is the first weapon upgrade cheap, but it doesn't increase the weapon's weight at all, but will increase damage by 70%. This makes it a very efficient trash cleaner, perhaps even more so than the 1911, considering its lightweight, abundant ammo, and healing utility. The next cross-perk weapon, and the first of two originating from the sharpshooter perk, is the lever action rifle. While not a weapon you should run out and buy, it definitely isn't a bad option for the sharpshooter and gains 60% additional damage from a single upgrade. Overall, the lever action works well as an economy weapon if picked up off the ground or a fallen teammate, at least until a better substitute is found or the original owner respawns. Also available from the sharpshooter is another, more modern take on the lever action design, the SPX 464. While its tactical furniture may suggest it's all show, the SPX delivers over twice the stopping power of the lever action with an optic to boot, aiding in target acquisition. Despite the SPX being pretty heavily nerfed since its genesis, it can still fit into many builds pretty effectively, and is still very good at handling big Zeds, especially when distance is a factor. This allows you to eliminate threats that may exceed the useful range of your handguns. The final two cross-perk weapons, the Spitfires and the HX-25, while not necessarily bad weapons, are bad options for the Gunslingers. The Gunslinger relies on stacking lots of headshot damage, and both weapons, while capable of hitting the head, get much of their effectiveness from body damage, and are therefore counterintuitive for a high skill level Gunslinger. The skill tree for the Gunslinger is very straightforward, and for optimal results should always be Quick Draw, Rack 'em Up, Speed Loader, Skullcracker, and Fanfire. For slot 2, Rack 'em Up is the only logical choice for the Gunslinger, considering it's a perk that even on medium levels of play, thrives off of getting headshots. Even those who aren't the best shots will still see better results running this over Bonebreaker. Speed Loader is also a very easy pick, as it remedies one of the biggest weaknesses of the Gunslinger. Skullcracker is very useful when engaging big Zeds, as it will give you additional time and space to bring them down. Finally, Fanfire will allow you to melt big Zeds in Zed time, and is even more powerful when used in conjunction with a good commando. Due to the wide variety of weapons available to the Gunslinger, it is a very configurable perk. However, I have provided 5 loadouts, each with their own unique flavor. The first loadout is called Easy Mode, and really makes the game almost too easy, especially against big Zeds. We will use the Tier 5 Deagles, either a pair of AF 2011s or 500s, and a Tier 2 Medic Pistol. Use the Deagles for big Zeds, the AFs or 500s for groups of trash, and the Medic Pistol for single weak enemies. Our second build is a balanced loadout, allowing you to take on all comers at any range without too much hassle. This will include the Tier 5 Desert Eagles, Tier 3 SPX, and a Tier 2 Medic Pistol. The Desert Eagles will be great for medium and large Zeds at close range, the SPX can handle enemies at long range, and the Medic Pistol will be the best choice for small amounts of trash Zeds. The next loadout is known as 8 Barrels, and gives you a near endless supply of ammunition, especially useful when playing with random or bad teammates. It will consist of a pair of 500s, Desert Eagles, Tier 3 1911s, and a Tier 2 Medic Pistol. While probably not an optimal build, it certainly is far from poor. The fourth build is called No Upgrades, No Problem, and works well for those who aren't a big fan of the upgrade system. Your weapons will be the 500s or AF 2011s, Desert Eagles, and the SPX, all of which will give you a fairly balanced loadout while still keeping you effective against bigger Zeds. The final build, known as the Cowboy, is more of a meme build than a serious suggestion, but can be fun nonetheless. You will use the Tier 3 1858s, Tier 2 lever action rifle, and the 500 Magnums. A fun build, and again, while not terrible, definitely takes some concessions for the sake of having a good time. Now that we have a good view of what the Gunslinger has to offer, we can dive into how to use the perk effectively. Primarily, the Gunslinger is a big Zed killer, capable of using high mobility to get in and out of danger. They have the ability to quickly bring down big Zeds with almost any fully upgraded weapon at their disposal without a reload. However, the 3 most powerful will be the Desert Eagle, AF 2011, and 500 Magnums. With these 3 weapons, you'll want to do your best to isolate your target from other Zeds and give yourself at least 5 to 7 meters of space. This extra space will give you room in case you miss a few headshots and need to reload, or when a Scrake becomes enraged partway through a takedown. If he swings, he will become a much harder target to hit, so preventing him from doing so is ideal. The same is true for the SPX, however it becomes much easier with an upgrade or 2, and can be done at longer ranges. To assist in this, you can also utilize a nail bomb against a Scrake right before firing the first shot, leaving him stunned and helpless. Once you're ready to engage, simply begin firing at the head as fast and as accurately as you can until the Zed becomes decapitated. Missing too many shots can leave the Zed alive and well, so bringing a second set of pistols or a rifle may be ideal, especially when first attempting these takedowns. Against bosses, not only can you lay down some serious firepower, but you can also kite bosses like the Abomination and the King Fleshpound, who lack ranged attacks that force you to take cover or break line of sight. While a big game hunter at heart, Gunslingers perform very well against trash, assuming their ammo economy can sustain it. Zeds like Crawlers and Stalkers can be a big drain on your ammo due to their elusive nature, so take advantage of a high ammo count weapon, nail bombs, or shot penetration. A very important mechanic for the Gunslinger is reload canceling, which allows you to quicken your reloads significantly, especially on an empty reload with everything except for the 500s. While there are a few ways to reload cancel, a simple way is to tap the melee bash key once your magazine count refills, and your weapons will be ready to fire. Ultimately, the Gunslinger is a perk that takes a lot of practice and skill to be effective with, and is arguably the most rewarding perk for that reason. Gunslingers are critical to a team's success, and synergize very well with commandos for their ability to extend Z time, and sharpshooters for their increased chance to start Z time. The Gunslinger does not play well with either the Firebug or the Demolitionist, as both of them can be disruptive to your aim, especially if they are careless. SWATs make a decent pairing as they can keep much of the more annoying trash like crawlers and stalkers at bay, while you focus on bigger and deadlier targets. Overall, the Gunslinger is probably the best perk in the game as of writing this, but it also takes a fair amount of practice and skill to become good with. However, with a little bit of patience and understanding of how to play the Slinger, any player can make it look easy. Thank you very much for watching. Join us next time when we take a look at the Sharpshooter perk. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Also feel free to subscribe so you never miss a guide, or check out my Patreon if you wish to support me. Thank you again for watching, but until next time, happy hunting.